You know, I like a man he's done everything he needs to do in his 20s and his 30s, and he's just looking for his wife. He's been through it all, right? He had his start to marriage.
Yes.
He's even better if he had kids, then he knows what having kids is about. He's prepared to do that duty.
Right.
Okay.
And also, if you're a go-getter kind of woman,
Right.
sometimes men our age are intimidated.
Where would I find the divorced man? Because, see, the widower, I know where to go. The funeral. Getting right at the funeral. Slide up on him. So sorry for your loss. So, if there's anything I can do, and I brought a casserole. So that works. Where do you find the divorcee? Quickly, I need to know.
You have to hang out in that age group.
Yeah.
It's usually the 45 to 50-year-old man.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'll take you off
It's a
set.
TV show.
I'll take you off set.
I've been taking a poll asking married women who describe their marriages as happy, and I've even asked my dad too, like, would you remarry? And most have said no. And I'm trying to understand, like, if you love being married, why would you not do it again? I'm asking myself, would I remarry? And I'll classify our marriage as a happy marriage. And my answer is no. Why is that?
Welcome back to the channel. And I know one of the things has always been, Ashley, to deal with divorces and divorce energy. And I am going to do a video series because I'm actually nearing 5,000 followers. And I wanted to wait until I got beyond 5,000 in order to actually do that particular series. And I'm really close. I mean, as I'm shooting this, I'm right around 4,900. So by the time this video comes out, I might be at 5,000. So whoa! And thank you all for supporting me. I really, truly appreciate it. Now, one of the things that's always been real interesting about the whole divorce thing, and I'm just going to be real and I'm going to go straight into it. A lot of divorced people are awesome, are absolutely awesome. And I think that a lot of divorced people are great. And I'm going to say women and men, because they understand what it's like to be married. See, one of the things you hear me talk about all the time on this channel is that you have to be a husband or you have to be a wife. Now, it is true in every marriage, there's generally one person that does a little bit more work than the other, and there's generally reasons why people decide, decide to get divorced. And I will say that, so I'm not going to minimize that. But for those that actually halfway appreciate it, being in that situation, many of them understand. Like, I would say about 30% of the women that I've dated, well, actually, I'll say more than that, but I would say more closer to 40% of the women that I've dated have either been divorced or they've been in very long relationships. And again, it's like night and day dating them versus dating a woman who literally either can't hold a man down or she's going through a different man every 18 months. It's like night and day. The woman who's been in that long relationship, she understands, really kind of how to be a wife. She comes in taking ownership. She cares more about my health. She cares more about what I'm doing with my life. She takes interest in some of the things that I'm trying to do, versus, like I say, women that have not been in that situation, because again, they tend to walk in girlfriend energy. And I know a lot of the women, that are watching might be like, well, how does that happen, with the men? I mean, aren't these women divorcing these men because they ain't about nothing? Well, a lot of divorces don't happen exactly how you think they should happen. You don't know all the reasons why. See, that again is what media is telling you. Media is telling you that all the men are bad, that all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And there are a lot of really great guys that get divorced. Now, you still have to vet them. I'm never going to say you should not vet them. Like I told you guys this before, but there's a lot of really great guys. And then these guys actually know, how to, be a husband, and they walk in husband energy because they've been doing it. And I actually have a friend. I actually thought about bringing her on, and I might bring her on 1 or 2 videos in the future because she said that she would be okay with it. But she told me a long time ago, she only dates divorced men. And she has done very well, in her dating pool. And that's the whole thing. She's like, divorced men, they treat you great. Now, the issue with divorced people, period, and I think this hits men a little bit more than it hits women, is the children. Okay, because people get married and they have children. And while if the marriage was like 3 or 4 years, they might not have children. But generally, if it's over 7 years, there's probably at least one child. And so that is really why a lot of divorced people struggle unless they marry each other. Like divorced people marry another divorced person. But a lot of the divorced people I see, they get married very quick. They're like, they pop out, ooh, 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 and then they pop in. Because the divorced people see very quickly that they were safer in the marriage, that the marriage not only was good and had all these, great qualities, but it was safer. Now, a lot of the women that are talking and saying that they would not get, married again, many of them, the reason why they're saying it is because of the amount of work that they have to do. In order for you to be in a relationship, like I told you, you have to give yourself away. All right. And that is difficult. It's difficult for a lot of people. And it's really all about how you personally enjoy that process. And a lot of people don't enjoy that process. Like heart type people, they love that process. They absolutely love it because that's their MO. If they're not going to give it to their husband, they're going to give it to the church. If they're not going to give it to the church, they're going to be working at the Humane Society or something like that. They're always volunteering. Okay, that's what heart people do. It's like they have to give. They can't help themselves. That's just a part of who they are. Okay? And then when you start talking about thinking types don't always like to give, And I told you most people are thinking types. And so they're like, I'm okay, especially if they're introverted. They can be like, I'm okay with being in my house, watching my TV shows. I'm okay with this. I can live the rest of my life out like this. And that's also the reason why I tell you, being real is that I know it's a little bit of an aside, but I tell you that this whole ratio of eight men for every 10 women or 4 to 5 is really not a problem because so many women take themselves out the game. And introverted women that are thinking introverted women take themselves out the game more than any other group because for them, it's so difficult to do work for other people or even to do work for themselves because a lot of instinct-driven women, they might not have the heart. They're not doing it because they really want to support the man per se. But those that are humble and they're instinct-driven, sometimes those are the best women. Like I try to tell y'all, the Proverbs 31 woman is instinct-driven. But the difference is she's doing it for her family. So that means her heart is humbled. She's not doing it for self. See, the problem with, like I said, with instinct-driven women is they're selfish. But when they take that energy off of themselves and put it onto somebody else, then they're awesome. At that point, they become great wives. Why? Because they're driven. And that's when you have these people that'll have these perfectly aligned children. And every child is dressed perfectly and their hair is perfect. And, all this kind of stuff. You're looking at the children. You're like, dang, how did you get these kids acting like that? Well, it's because she's instinct driven. But she has put her energy into her family instead of putting her energy, into herself. Okay, you can always tell instinct-driven woman to put some energy into herself because it's always about her cars, her stuff, this great big house that's empty. She's the only person living there. And like I say, I see that all around Atlanta. And to me, it's sad. I actually think that's sad. When you have a 6-bedroom house with a basement, some of y'all might not know what basements, but the basement is fully developed. So you end up with a situation where people call them mini mansions. And you have this house and you just think it's a normal house. And then you go inside and there's a whole nother floor. So it's really 3 floors a lot of times here in Atlanta. And there will be technically about 6 or 7 rooms outside of the living room, dining room, den, entertainment room, eating, kitchen, and all that kind of stuff. So these are really nice homes, that a lot of these women are living in, and they're living in them by themselves because they're instinct driven, but their instinct energy has been for themselves. It's never been for somebody else. Because when you have children and you have a husband, if that instinct energy goes for them and you say, I'm going to make them the best, that is when, like, there's that whole story about, you've heard me say it, but, people talk about a better woman, you have a good man, but you have a better woman behind him, and that the woman can make a man into a millionaire. Well, heart types and thinking types, they're not the ones that make you into a millionaire. It's the instinct-driven woman. And I will say that it is the instinct-driven woman. But the difference is, in order for an instinct-driven woman to do that, she has to put you first. And she has to put herself second. But our society doesn't encourage women to do that anymore. Okay? And so what happens is, because she becomes selfish, she does do all those things. She becomes a millionaire. But now she has no life. She has no husband. She has no children. But if she puts her energy into her family, then she gets everything. It's real funny like that. It's like, and that's why I always say, you know, what the Bible talks about, in order to find your life, the life that you want, the life that's going to glorify God, you have to give your life. What you want, what you say you need, you have to give it away. And that is how, you know, you do it. So anyway, a lot of women, like I say, they do not like, you know, the amount of effort, especially if they are thinking types, you know, and that's that whole thing, is that they're thinking types. Now, a lot of men, okay, if they have not dealt with financial issues of divorce, I find that many of them have no problem with getting married again, because a lot of men enjoy, you know, having a woman that they can lean on. Now, I think one of the problems that people have is that they're constantly believing that the woman is supposed to be doing most of the work. And I'm always saying that's not true. It's whoever is the leader. And if the man is the leader, and women, if you have found a proper leader, he should be doing most of the work. Okay? I'm not saying he's going to be doing 70%, you doing 30. I'm saying that it should be more like maybe 52% him and 48% you. And that's generally, you know, how that would work. But I wanted to make this video about, you know, this whole concept of the leftover divorcees, because like I'm saying, I'll be real, I love a divorced woman. I mean, I have no issues with it at all, because I do find that if they've come out healed and recognize the mistakes that they've made, so that they've taken accountability for the mistakes they made in the relationship, and, you know, I find that they are great women, awesome women. And they take to catering you just like that. They take to doing the wifey duties just like that. And a lot of them, as crazy as it sounds, they kind of understand what husband energy is. Because again, they've been around it for such a long time that if their husband was a husband, instead of marrying a boyfriend, because generally they've married a boyfriend, they're jaded, they're done with men. Okay, they've never really understood it, they're just done with men. You know, and I find that a lot of people, they don't really want to know the truth, they just want their emotions validated. But those that, you know, have recognized, well, we didn't really get along that well, or, well, yeah, you know, I could have done some things different. Those women generally have a huge chance of getting married again, but they, you know, they still got to follow all the rules. Same thing, men, they have to follow all the rules of what the other side is looking for. All right. But I wanted to talk about this because I do think divorced people get looked over a lot, and people don't really talk about them. But a lot of divorced people are really great, you know, people to marry. And I think that's what the first lady, the Asian lady, was saying. She was like, go after the divorced men. And again, that's one thing I've never quite understood why a lot of women don't do it. I understand the Bible, what the Bible says about that. And so I understand that. I've actually dated two women that would not date me. Or I shouldn't say date. I talked to two women that would not date me because I am divorced. And so they went back, you know, because, you know, I'm Christian and they were Christian. And so they quoted the fact that because I was divorced, that cut me out. But the way I was looking at it was, first of all, there's forgiveness. Okay, so that's number one. And then number two of it, you know, like one of these women, she was like 40. And she wanted children and she wanted all these other types of things. And I'm like, boo, if you're talking to a 45-year-old man that's never been married or been in a very long relationship, and he probably going to have some kind of problem. And you're going to need to think about how you're handling this. You know, a lot of people love to beat up on women, you know, saying, well, hey, you know, if they're 32 or 35 or whatever it is. But I'm real. If I run into a man that's 45 years old and he can't tell me he's been in a very long relationship, then again, I'm going to be saying the same things I say about the women, because I'm going to be like, okay, what's going on with you? You know, what exactly are you doing? How are you handling these things? Because that, again, that's part of it, of understanding a relationship. And again, these are the questions nobody asks. Nobody asks these questions. I never understand, again, communication. Communication is key. Like I said, I'm all off topic. I know I'm all off topic. And this is why I tell people all the time, to watch all my videos, because I get all off topic. But communication is so key. And again, it's amazing to me how many people won't just simply say what's on their heart. I think they're either afraid that they're going to lose the other person, or they just don't know that they need to ask or say or whatever it is. Because like I say, I will tell a woman, like, look, on these first couple of dates, we're not going to kiss or anything like that. I really don't feel that. I'll go through. I'll say, okay, this is how we're going to date. This is how we're going to set this up. This is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about that. And I find, that when I do that, most of the women that I've talked to, they love that. They absolutely love it, because they want to know, okay, how is this going to go through? How are you going to talk to me? How is this relationship going to go? Because a lot of men, they're so vague. And that's why the men that follow me, I encourage you to just tell her what you want. And when I say this, I'm not saying it from a selfish place, but whatever you're going to do, just tell her up front. Like if you're a guy and you're saying, look, like, because I run into a couple people, like I just did a video with Anton Daniels, and he was basically talking about how he doesn't believe in the term dating. Well, I believe in the term dating, but dating is a very small amount of time. It is not the course of 2 years. Okay, dating is about 2 months, or so, maybe 3 at the most. But you're basically trying to understand who the other person is. That's the whole point. The concept of dating is to gather data. You're trying to figure out who the other person is. Once you get beyond that, then you start courting. Now, there are situations, if you can get around really great people, and this is what I really encourage people to do, is to get around really great people. And then when you're around them, you get to know them. And as you get to know them, that is like the dating process. Like when I first created Christian Singles Connect and we started to do activities, that's what I was encouraging the people, to do, to come out to the activities, to get to know the other people around them. All right. And then figure out, after you met and talked to them and had a good time with them a couple of times, if you want to actually get their number and actually take it to another level. But what I found was that a lot of people were coming into the group and they might come 2 or 3 times, but they were trying to hurry up and get a number and then take it out elsewhere. And even if you take it out elsewhere, that's fine. But it's like, you still need to gather data. You don't know these people and you're trying to figure it out. And like I said, this concept of, ooh, they're just attractive, so let me hang out with them just because they're attractive, that don't really work. Okay, again, I think you should give it time. Okay, because you'd be surprised. There might be some things about this person that you like, okay, and you don't want to just throw it away. So I'm not saying that you have to 100% be 100% lined up and have a great ball the first time that you hang out with somebody. But what I am saying is you should know within a couple of months whether or not it can go to the next level. And that next level is courting. Because at that point, especially if you're a guy, if you are not in the process of courting the woman by the time you guys reach day 120, then you're really wasting her time at that point. You are 100% wasting her time. And it is really cruel. Okay, I'm just going to be real. It's cruel to the woman when you waste her time. Now, there are women out there that are screaming that they ain't had a date in 2 years. But it's also cruel to them when you're hanging out with them and you know that there's no future. And I'm going to be real as a guy, and I've said this before, if you as a guy do what you need to do, you lined up with the 3 things that women are looking for, which is a leader, a protector, and a provider. You try to dress halfway decent. You try to get in the gym, so that you'll have decent, physicality. Like I say, you ain't got to be perfect, just needs to be tight. And, you're walking through what you need to do. You're not going to have a problem with women. Women are going to be coming like it ain't nobody's business. And I'll be honest, if women would do what they need to do, they would have all the men that they want. It's always amazing to me how many people fight against the wall of simply just doing what you need to do. Because everybody comes up with an excuse. And I've learned that the excuses don't help you. Because I used to have excuses. I had plenty of them. I'm not going to lie. I had excuses all the way back to, from high school all the way up to about 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, it really got to the epiphany where I was like, Jay, women like this. And you keep trying to get this 10% over here, but you have to line up with 90% of what they want. It has to be in that 90% range of what they want, not about what you think they should want, not logically how this should happen, but it has to be 90% of what they want. So at that point, I was like, it's logical for me to just give them what they want and to stop fighting over this 10, 15, 20% that I'm trying to hold on to. Because that's generally what we're trying to do. We're trying to hold on to this 10, 15, 20%. And then we lose everything because we're trying to hold on to this. And, and I'm letting you know, like I say, as a man, that I did this, that I made this mistake. And I find that, honestly, that's where most men make their mistake, is they just won't give the woman what they want. They'll get all on social media and, again, all in their feelings, and they just won't get a woman what they want. It's like I told guys straight up, pay for the date. Stop tripping. Pay for the date. And don't bring it up that you had to pay for the date. Pay for the date. Pay for the first 3 or 4 days. I have never had a situation right now that I've had to pay for more than 2 days back to back. Generally, by the time it's the third date, we're either taking a walk because she's at the point where she don't want to be at a restaurant. Here in Atlanta, like I said, we have the Beltline, so people can do a walk. You can meet at the park. There's so many different things you could do. Or you could do a very inexpensive date where maybe you go to a little cafe or something where you grab, maybe an $8, sandwich or something like that. And then you take it somewhere else and then you eat. So there's so many different ways you can do it. And I find that women who really want to be married, they don't mind that. They don't mind that at all. Of you going in and doing, the little smaller things, in order to, to make that happen. But it's like I told you, I rarely have had more than 2 sit-down dates. After back-to-back, we usually moved on to something else. And so a lot of guys are cutting themselves out. Let's say y'all cutting your own throat. The woman is saying, I want you to pay. And it's like, we can complain on social media all we want. It's not going to change women's nature. That's who they are. So if you as a man come in, okay, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to go and pay. If I got to pay for the first 3 or 4 dates, I will. And I'm going to try to, like I told y'all, $2 signs. Like I do $2 signs. And, when you look it up on Google, I always look at the restaurant, how much it costs. And I always look at the menu. I don't take nobody no place where I'm going to spend $300. See, that's y'all want to be big ballers. I don't do that crap. Now, I know every place is different. Like New York, LA, like I think in LA, it's like parking is really expensive. So you have to pay for parking and you have to pay, for the restaurant. So like I try to find places where the parking is free. I'm just being real. So, and again, I find that when women really want a relationship, when they have matured to that level, they don't care about that. Their focus really is to talk to you. I've had women that have come to the date and didn't order anything. They might have ordered like a drink. And when I say a drink, I'm not talking about like a margarita or anything. They ordered like some sweet tea. And I'm sitting up there eating, and then they just looking at me because they weren't really hungry. They were there for me. And so that's the point I'm trying to make. But when you come in as a dude and you like, man, I ain't paying for this, man, these girl, man, blah, 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 blah. And then the woman hear you say that, then she gonna wrap you out. She gonna be like, no, I'm done. I'm done with this dude. And that's why I'm saying, if you fighting against a brick wall, it don't help. It don't help. And that's kind of why I try to tell women, a lot of women try to fight against a brick wall. What are men looking for? They're looking for beauty. Not saying you got to be perfect, but you got to be working towards that direction. You got to be supportive and you have to be kind. So if you cussing out the doggone waitress and like, oh, no, she didn't, I got to send this back. If you don't seem agreeable, especially on the first 1 or 2 dates, for most dudes, it's going to be a wrap unless they just want to hit it. And I'm trying to be real about it because, a lot of guys, they just want to hit it. And even when it comes to that, like I said, I know I'm all off topic, but I'm here now for the women that are watching. If a man just wants to hit it, you're going to be able to tell because he's going to open his mouth and he's going to keep talking about it. And see, y'all get mad about it saying, well, I don't understand, these men, all they all want to have sex. Here's the whole thing. He's helped you. He's helped you because he's disqualified himself. I don't understand why everybody's trying to make it work. I don't want to make it work. I want people to disqualify themselves. They come in, they have a clean slate. Then they do something, and I'm like, okay, red flag. They do something else, yellow flag. Something else, yellow flag. Okay, yellow flag, red flag, yellow flag. And what I do, and like I've told you guys to do, I write them down. I put them in my phone. Okay, I put all the information. It's like I'm an FBI thing in my phone. Why? Because I know I have oxytocin that'll come in and drip over all their sins. That oxytocin will drip over all their sins, and I won't even know who they are anymore. There is a point, if I stay with them long enough, that will happen. So I need to understand the person I'm dealing with. But see, most of you guys, y'all don't do that. See, y'all won't take it to that level. Y'all just want to fall in love and be all romanticized. And I'm trying to tell you that at this point, it ain't work for you. And you guys will go out here, like I've had 2 women. It was so funny. There was a guy that was a dating coach way before I ever got into this stuff. That he was a dating coach and he was selling a deck of cards that had questions that women could ask for, to meet, when they first meet men and stuff like that to get the conversation started. To me, honestly, it was a total waste of money. But 2 women popped up and both of them did the same thing. And it was so funny to me because by the time I got to the second woman, I knew all the answers. I knew exactly how I was going to answer it, but that deck of cards didn't really help at all. The easiest way to do it is just to, again, talk to me, see what we have in common. What, from the woman's perspective, what are my yellow flags? What are my red flags? Make notes of these things, after the date, not during the date. And then after about 2 months, if we're hanging out about 2 months, go over them and make a true judgment call on whether or not I would be a good person. That's a much better way. Because certain light questions don't go deep enough. You don't really know who the person is. Okay, and then it's not just who that person is. It's also about how they're treating you. Okay, it shouldn't be too much, but it shouldn't be too little. All right, all these things. How do their friends act? Are their friends married? All of these things. When I run into a woman and none of her friends are married, none, that is a yellow flag. Okay, we are an average of our 4 to 5 closest friends. A woman who has friends that are not married is a yellow flag. Same thing for women. When you run into a man and all his friends are not married, that is a yellow flag. Huge yellow flag. A person that doesn't have a dad at home, that's a yellow flag. For women and for men, that's a yellow flag. Someone who went through trauma as a child, but never dealt with it, that's a yellow flag. It's not that you can't move past it. That's the whole point of a yellow flag. A yellow flag is not something it's something you might be able to work out. A red flag, okay, is something that is really harmful. This is dangerous. This is something that you don't necessarily agree with. But one red flag to me doesn't negate what could be a relationship. For instance, if I'm with someone, and like I told you guys, my background is media, movies and film and different things like that. So if I run into someone who doesn't like movies, that's a red flag for me. But it's not because they're a bad person. It's because that's such an ingrained part of me. So if they don't want to watch movies, then a huge part of who I am, we won't be able to share. Does that make sense? But that's not going to change. That's not a part of them that's going to change. Because if they don't like movies, they don't like movies. So it's a red flag, but it's a red flag for me personally. And that's why I was saying that's something I can move past. But a red flag that I might not be able to move past or something I have to think about is, like I say, if the woman was a cheater in her past, or if she cheated on her husband or on her boyfriend. That is going to go down as a red flag. Even if she says that she wouldn't do it again, that's still a red flag because you did it once. And so at that point, it's there. It doesn't mean I won't continue with the relationship, but it is something that I'm going to strongly consider once we get beyond, these 2 months or 3 months or whatever we're using to dictate, how we're going to move forward. Because what I'm trying to see is, are there other attributes that are worth more Because everybody's going to have at least one or two red flags, and everybody's going to have some yellow flags, a lot of yellow flags. But you need to understand what they are. And there are some things that you just can't move past. I get that. But then there are other things that you can work through. So anyway, I know this is a lot. I know I got all off topic, but y'all know that's how I roll. I do that all the time. That's why I encourage y'all to watch all the videos. But anyway, there's a lot of information in the description for the new people. Like I said, I am working on some books, because people keep asking me about them. I know. But I got to get on them. It's coming into June. Y'all probably watching this in June. But I just got to get on them. I got work to do. But please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.